Welcome back to Golden Rule Radio, your weekly recap and outlook on the precious metals markets and the underlying fundamentals affecting those markets. And I want to give a big shout out to you, Miles and Robert. Last week's show was excellent. And I'm not just saying that because I was absent. I'm saying if you haven't seen it and listened to it, go back and absolutely do so. But let's jump right into gold this week. Again, not a whole lot of price action, but tech guru Miles, take away.
Sure. I don't know how many technicals I have for you when the price isn't moving. You've got to see some stuff happen. So we're still flirting around that 1,200 mark. Obviously, we're trying to make some pushes up. It keeps seeing resistance. You got to see gold above 1,220. You got to see 1,225, 1,230, 1,235. Test some of the high points going back a few months as we were stepping down. You need to test some of those resistance levels that we put in earlier this year. So until that happens, unless we're going to push below 1185 and stay there or above 1225 and stay there, I don't really have much to say this week.
Well, we're not leaning on you from prediction standpoints, but last week you did put up that chart, and we're going to put it up again here this week, that shows those resistance levels to the upside and how critically important they are. I'm encouraged. We are back over 1,200 today, but we've done that multiple times. Like you alluded to, we've hit higher lows, and we're sort of seeing that again still, and yet we're also seeing lower highs.
It's true, and silver's been doing the same thing. I mean, silver came down to those old lows and has been just kind of floundering. Now, here's what's interesting is you move over to the other white metals and you look at what platinum has done. Platinum has actually exceeded some previous highs. And we'll get to palladium here in a second, which is just, again, out of control. But from top to bottom, palladium has done exceptionally well, might be leading the charge in the precious metals, up over 26%. It's tested the previous highs, just like platinum has. However, leading that charge, we're above the June highs in palladium. We're seeing a little bit of resistance at the April highs. So I'd argue a correction in palladium is likely. But we've got a long way to go down to even argue anything that resembles bearish at this point. So anything above 900 is pretty strong. That's where the 618 fib is. Anything above about 935 would be very strong for palladium.
Tough to follow the platinum and palladium metals. It's not like it's going across the ticker at the bottom of your TV screen. So, we do try to touch base on that. But yesterday, platinum was up $15, and it was completely quiet in the markets. And that's on a down day in gold and silver. So, Miles, you're bringing up a point that not all precious metals act exactly the same in every single market. And it's important to look at platinum and palladium, but also look at copper, look at oil, and see what those things are doing. But the palladium charge, keep in mind too, the more palladium outperforms platinum, the more potential energy that is on the platinum-palladium ratio spring. So when it goes up, it just gets me that much more excited. When that ratio changes that much, it gets me that much more excited that it's going to reverse and start going the other way, because we've been putting everybody into platinum.
Exactly. The platinum and palladium is leading the precious metals. I would argue the same way the Dow Transportation Average or the NASDAQ and S&P has led the Dow. So with gold and silver attempting to move into new territory on the upside, keep coming against those resistance levels, platinum and palladium have blown right through. The transports have done a very similar thing. The transports blew out those old January highs about a month ago. The Dow industrials are just getting back up to it. So I still think everything hinges on the US dollar. Just like how gold seems to be attempting to break out into new highs, or at least recent highs, the dollar seems to be pushing against those previous lows. And if we do have the dollar push down, Dow's going higher, transport's going higher, NASDAQ going higher, commodities are going higher. So I think we'll see a lot of things really break out here as we move into the fall.
I agree. And I think, too, the way I look at silver is it's an economic barometer. Okay, it's something that's telling you the true health and viability of the economy. I know the numbers are coming out great, but we're coming up on the end of the fiscal fourth quarter for the federal government. So they're off a quarter from a calendar quarter. So the government's fiscal fourth quarter is now, and it ends at the end of September. We need strong, positive economic numbers, in my opinion, too, to really help put wind in the sails of silver. And on top of that, with the inflationary concerns, we're going to see what happens next week with the FOMC meetings and whether or not they see enough evidence to raise rates again. But I do think that it would be justified to wait a little bit and see what those fourth quarter numbers come in as.
So just like Feinstein waiting to the very last minute to present information, we'll be waiting to the last minute to see what the markets do.
That's right. Miles, I know you say that in jest, but I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, I'm anxious to see what happens with the evidence that's been brought forth by the Kavanaugh accuser. And to me, you guys touch base on the black swan event. We don't know what that's going to be. This could be it.
You use the word evidence fairly liberally.
Yeah. The accusations, the details of an accusation, let's say that. All I'm saying is a black swan event can come from any number of angles, right? It can be political, it can be geopolitical, it can be economic, it can be monetary policy, it can be the collapse of a financial institution. Speaking of the political side, though, what happens in the instance that this turns into somewhat of a witch hunt and it's successful? To me, that can be a black swan type of an event where it riles the markets so much because of civil unrest that's created with people just saying enough. Right or wrong, truthful or untruthful, I think it's just something that's bringing that pressure to a head.
Sure. I mean, the big concern over the last couple of years, the divisiveness in our country right now and the segregation between left and right, conservative and liberal has obviously increased pretty dramatically during the Trump administration. I'm certainly not blaming him for that by any means specifically, but it has been a pretty substantial issue here. So moving towards these elections coming up with the Supreme Court announcement taking place right now and the potential delay of that, what the U.S. dollar is doing, what the tariffs and how the tariffs are affecting the markets. I mean, you look at the corn pricing, you look at the soybean pricing, they're getting crushed right now. You look where oil has been increasing. You look what precious metals are doing. All this stuff ties together pretty aggressively. So my big concern is what happens when the people come out of the woodworks and say, we're going to the polls in November. What does that end up looking like?
Oh, see, and I think that's sort of the key takeaway. In my opinion, if the Democrats wanted to assure a more favorable outcome in November, they would let this confirmation hearing proceed and go through, because they have an energized voter base. What they're going to do is they're going to energize the Republican voter base significantly if they delay and are effective in delaying the confirmation or obviously negating the confirmation altogether. So that to me is going to be a real pivotal key. And you're also bringing up the tariff issue. Yes, we have economic concerns. We have tariff concerns. I'm hearing the media now come against the tariffs. It's become an issue for the left to speak out against the tariffs, right? So they have a certain strategic benefit to the United States, and that is favorable trade, right? With that comes some short-term pain. Long-term fixes oftentimes take short-term sacrifice. And what we're hearing now is this concerted effort to come against the policies that Trump is enacting from a tariff standpoint and create this air of dissension. Again, adding to this the political tension in the United States, there's an air of dissension now against these tariffs, even though if your car prices go up, you have to realize that the American automotive manufacturers are becoming more competitive on the global automotive scene. Just because the domestic car prices go up doesn't mean it's not worth it in the end.
And the court of public opinion has always been enamored with the bread and circuses. The problem is nowadays politics are themselves the bread and circuses. So I think back to Baron Rothschild's statements from 150 years ago in England, I care not for politics, give me a nation's wealth and I'll rule the nation. So my question is always, and I know I'm not the conspiratorial one in the room, but what is all this diverting attention from?
Are you asking me that question? Do I have to answer that?
Well, we'll find out over the next 6 months.
Okay, good.
What
I have
what
some
policies,
thoughts and theories, but I'm not
what
ready
policies
to
are going to get passed over the next 3 to 6 months when nobody's paying attention? Kind of like how Clinton repealed Glass-Steagall during the end of his campaign when everybody was focused on Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We'll see what the oil and tech sectors do in response to the tariff concerns. Right now, they're resisting totally, and some market sectors like you're talking about are being impacted. But through it all, despite all of this noise, gold staying steady. Okay, to circle back around, Gold is not telling us anything significant is going on in the geopolitical scene right now. Silver's not telling us that anything significant is going on in the economic landscape right now. So when they start moving aggressively, always remember they are a red flag warning, or they are a barometer of sorts as to something of significance that's actually occurring. And right now, all of this is just noise.
So that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you for joining us. If you like what you heard, click the subscribe button, ring the bell to get the notifications. Head on over to Twitter at ICA Gold or Facebook at McAlvany Financial. And as always, you can give us a call at 1-800-525-9556, as we'd love to have the chance to spend some time with you running through your individual portfolio on a one-on-one basis.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.